So joining me now is Jake and Aaron from Youth for Christ. Hi guys, good to see you.
Yeah, great to be here.
So for those that don't know, just as briefly as you can, just tell us a little bit about Youth for Christ, what you do.
Yeah, so Youth for Christ, we are a Christian youth work charity. Our sort of vision is to take good news to every young person, and that is through school ministry, through outreach events, and through just general youth work.
So there's two of you here. So what's your sort of role for Youth for Christ then, Aaron?
Yeah, so I'm the director of Dorchester Youth for Christ and the founder. So about 7 years ago, I had a real calling that. So basically, I was working a lot in youth work for Dorset Council and seeing a lot of young people in lots of need and asking them the question, where do you get support? Never saying it was the church, which disappointed me, and I just thought at that point we need to do more about that, and felt a calling to really go into ministry and maybe see how we can tackle those issues of homelessness and youngsters really struggling with addictions. So that was kind of the calling of that. So now we're in lots of schools, and so over the last 7 years we've kind of started off just being in a few schools across Dorset. Now we're in sort of 12 plus schools, and we run youth centres, and so my role really is to direct and to sort of make mission happen.
Brilliant. And Jake, what about yourself?
Yeah, so really recently joined the team. I've actually previously been involved in church youth work and been involved with church ministry for about 10 years, just over 10 years. So, but recently joined the team, involved with schools work, supporting local churches, and Resound, which is our kind of gathered youth event. And one of my roles is to kind of oversee the worship and the kind of creative side of things. I guess similar to Aaron, I've got a real heart for youth work, but we're kind of involved in a mixed bag of things with schools ministry, and we do different youth centres around Dorset. So yeah.
Brilliant. So you both sort of say there, you know, we're in schools and doing schools ministry. I'm not sure whether it's an easy question to answer, but what's that look like? I mean, how do you get into schools? And what do you do when you're there? What does that look like?
Yeah, so amazingly, we've always been invited into schools, and so when I sort of went from Dorset County Council into Youth for Christ, so a lot of these schools already knew who I was, so that was kind of just on reputation, so that was fantastic. We kind of adapt our ministry depending on what the school needs are, so sometimes it can be direct chaplaincy type work, so kind of going in and overseeing like RE lessons, Christian unions, but also it can be real social action, so it can be like mentoring. So we kind of tailor depending on the school needs, and that's it really. But it can be really dependent on what the head teacher wants, and we've had some amazing times with head teachers recently when head teachers have contacted us and said we're desperate, our school's failing and we've tried everything and what our school needs is Jesus. So they've contacted us directly and said, can you come and help and support?
Wow.
And so we obviously say yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that's been just amazing how God's moved. And one of the most powerful testimonies I think I had about a year ago is when there was a head teacher who wasn't a Christian who said to us, I feel that the school needs to have some kind of ministry within the school at the time. So myself and another colleague, Harry, came into a room and he just basically said, like, I've never done this before, but can we just pray and invite the Holy Spirit to come?
And this is a non-Christian?
Yeah. So he said, yeah, for sure. So we prayed, and just in that moment, he just said, I just feel like, you're the guys for the job, and I'd love for you guys to come into school 2 days a week, and we're willing to pay that. Wow. So just really the answer to prayer, and just how God's been moving in his spaces, really.
That's great. It's so encouraging to hear that, and I think unusual, but maybe not. Maybe God's doing things all over the place that we're just not aware of. Jake, you were saying a moment ago about this thing, Resound, and that was one of the things I wanted to ask you guys, because we've got one coming up, haven't we, in our church, but perhaps just explain a little bit, what is Resound, what's it for, what sorts of things do you do?
Yeah, so Resound is about gathering young people, and it's about gathering the church, the local church, together in unity. One of the things that really brought about Resound in the first place was a heart for unity and for mission. And we kind of stumbled along the way, but we've become to realise that unity and mission, when they're combined together, there's real power, and God kind of shows up and gives blessing in that space. It's like that Bible verse that says God commands a blessing where there's unity. He actually sends blessing into that space. So we really discovered that kind of accidentally, if you like. Yeah, from gathering young people from different churches and just finding the flavour of unity is actually, there's a real appetite for it from the young people. They want to experience something more out of their normal environment or space that they find themselves in. And I guess from my point of view, you know, I grew up going to events like Soul Survivor, where you'd have big gatherings of young people, different Christian festivals, and being kind of discontent with the fact that they only happen once a year. And for me, I felt like, as being part of the kingdom, we should have access to that more regularly. And so Resound really came out of that heart to gather young people in unity and for mission. And we've just seen it grow in numbers, where there's just been young people connecting with other young people from other churches, but at the same school, and being like, oh, I didn't realise you're a Christian. And then families connecting with one another, and great testimonies coming out of the events. So yeah, all of that really is a kind of picture of Resound. We normally have a gospel message, we normally have lively worship, we have different activities like football, and what else do we have? We have like inflatables, loads of activities, food for the kids. So there's a bit of a range of things really for them. But yeah, the main thing for us is that we can really get into God's presence and allow them to experience God for themselves, really, outside of their local church context, but really gathered in a bigger environment to experience that. So. Brilliant.
So when is the one? We've got one coming up in Dorchester?
Yes.
When is that one?
Yeah, so it's the 25th of March. Really excited about that, and to gather churches, not just from Dorchester, but from all over Dorset, really. And yeah, kickstart with a Resound here in Dorchester.
Brilliant. That's great. Well, it's great to hear just a little bit about what you've done, to hear some testimony, and actually we're really excited to welcome you guys to Dorchester at the end of the month. So any young people out there watching this, we'll put all the details at the end of this video, but come along, it really sounds great. I think I'm a bit too old, but you know, I'm sure you guys will have a great time. So thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks.